Mariners win 8-4. They take the first of the three-game series against the Washington Nationals. They improve to 38 and 39 on the season. Let's talk about how it happens. A lot of action early on. Lane Thomas leads off for the Nationals with a homer. Mariners answer back with a J.P. Crawford leadoff homer to make it 1-1. In the second inning, Dominic Smith, who many of you know I've been a fan of for a long time, homers to make it 2-1. Luis Garcia singles home CJ Abrams to make it 3-1 in the third. Mariners finally start coming back in the fourth. Eugenio Suarez crushes a homer in the fourth. Julio Rodriguez singles home Jared Kelnick to tie the game at 3. Suarez answers with, not really answers, but he hits a sacrifice fly in the fifth to make it 4-3. Mike Ford, hey, it's more than just homers, folks. Singles home Jared Kelnick to make it 5-3. Colton Wong doubles home Mike Ford. What a year. What a weird year. 6-3. Mariners in the fifth. Mariners get a couple more in the eighth. Lane Thomas does hit a ground rule double, and Taylor Saucedo has to be pulled with the bases loaded. Paul Sewald, though, comes in and gets a one-out save that I will talk about very shortly. Some negatives here. Cal Raleigh had a really rough game, offensively anyway. 0 for 5. I think everybody else had a hit. Yep. Everybody else, I think, also had an RBI except for Kelnick, and he answers. He scores 2 runs, he gets a hit and a walk, so you can't complain too much about a lack of a run driven in here. I guess the biggest negative is, man, the Nationals are bad. I'm surprised that they have won 30 games, to be honest with you. Now, look, they're on a 65 win pace. They're not necessarily a 65 win team in a bad way. That's a bad baseball team, folks. We'll take it. We'll all take it. You're going to play bad teams, but that's a brutal one. That is a brutal one, and that is why you really, really have to win this series, and you really should be sweeping. You really should be sweeping the series. So Luis Castillo, and the reason why this recording is going up so late is because I didn't get a chance to watch the game due to work and some family stuff. But I saw a lot of complaining about Mr. Luis Castillo early on, and it's fair. Those first 3 innings were not great. Gives up the couple of homers, is hurt by an error by J.P. Crawford. So only 2 of the runs are earned, and both the runs were solo homers. So I get a little bit of the consternation, but he was fantastic from that point on. 4th inning to the 7th inning, he was excellent. And yes, it helps that the Washington lineup stinks, but he played really well. Pitched really well, played really well, works too. Just sounds weird for a pitcher, doesn't it? Anyway, really solid, strong start from Luis Castillo overall. It was a frustrating one that he gave up, he put them in a little bit of a hole, and the defense didn't help again. But there's no defense for 2 solo homers. But that also goes to show you that solo homers, not good, not always the worst thing. You don't want to give them up, obviously, but it's so much better than I'm not going to make the obvious point. You know what I'm trying to say. Overall, very strong start from Luis Castillo, and nice to finally get a win in a Castillo start. It seems like it's been a while. Andre Munoz does his job. The Sewald save. Okay. So, first of all, it stinks that they have to use Sewald. If I was a Nationals fan, look, it is not the reason they lost. Again, it's not the reason that they lost. I repeat. Awful. Called third strike. Holy crap. I'd be so frustrated. Umpiring is so bad right now. I'm so frustrated by it. Offensively, our boy Julio, 3 hits and a walk, steals a base. He's been swinging the bat really well lately. It's great to see. I know 247, 309, 423 is not what anybody signed up for. But you see the flashes. And by the way, he gets a clutch hit in tying the game. I never know what's clutch and what isn't clutch with folks, but I think the idea that Julio Rodriguez sinks under pressure, I don't care what the stats say. What the stats tell me is that the results have been bad. There's absolutely no way Julio Rodriguez wilts under pressure. Zero. Does he try to do too much at times? Sure. Most 22-year-old baseball players do. Julio Rodriguez is older, or excuse me, younger than the majority of players that you saw in the College World Series succeeding, or around the same age. Come on. And I know there's a lot of pressure on him. I know a lot of you are just really worried that Julio Rodriguez secured the bag last year. I don't know why. But I've been more than happy with what I've seen from Julio as of late, um, and have zero long-term concerns. Great player. Even while struggling with the bat more than we wanted him to, he still provided unreal value on the bases and unreal value with his defense. He's a star. We are fortunate to get to watch him. JP reaches 4 times. Mike Ford is showing that he's more than just homers. Not really, but he did have a nice game, a couple of hits, an RBI. Wong just misses that homer. Be nice to see him get one at home. I'd really like to give him a nice little ovation, even though I'm not sure he should be on the roster. And speaking of not being on the roster, let's talk about this. So this came across right before I started recording. Trevor Gott reinstated from the injured list. Totally forgot about Trevor Gott. Not going to lie. Forgot about Gott. That could be a fun little song. But in his place, the Mariners designated Chris Flexen for assignment. I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I'm not going to go too deep into it. But I will say this. One, good for the Mariners for not taking Chris Flexen's contract and saying he has to be on the roster. Number two, thank you, Chris Flexen. I know this year stunk. I mean, stunk is beyond one of the worst pitchers in baseball this year. However, he gave the Seattle Mariners 2 excellent years. And by all accounts, was a great guy and provided some versatility. And it's worth pointing out, it wasn't that Chris Flexen was pitching horribly. The reason why they made that Luis Castillo trade, they made the Luis Castillo trade is because they could get Luis Castillo. And they ended up putting him in the bullpen rather than Marco. And he was solid in the bullpen last year for the Seattle Mariners as in a multi-inning role type of, not a lot of high leverage stuff, but he pitched well. He did not pitch well this year, and the Mariners absolutely made the right decision. And I think it's tempting to look back and, well, it's more than tempting. It's what we're going to do, and look back and wonder what the Seattle Mariners were offered for Flexen either at last year's deadline, which I don't know how much interest there was, probably some, or this winter where I know there was interest. And you can play that game. I don't blame the Mariners for holding on to Chris Flexen. Now, the results did not work out, as so many things haven't for the Mariners offseason plan this year. But I don't think you can blame the Mariners for holding on to him, knowing that you were going to have injuries to this pitching staff after the good luck you had last year. And boy, oh boy, you sure did. 40% of that projected starting pitching staff is on the injured list. And he pitched well when given a shot last year and the year before that. Heck, he might have been the Mariners' ace in 2021. Darning with faint praise, but still worth pointing out. I don't blame the Mariners for not trading him. Assuming they weren't given some crazy offer. I'm not privileged to that. I know there was interest, but I'm not privileged to know what exactly the Mariners turned down for Chris Flexen. And I'll be curious to see if a team gives him a shot. Mariners will be on the hook for the contract for a lot of it. If he goes unclaimed, that is. He goes sign with a team. A lot of teams need help. A lot of teams need pitching help. And it wouldn't hurt anybody to, Give him a shot. It's not like he's sold like $4 million for the rest of the year. They're billionaires, folks. Come on. They'll be okay giving Chris Flexen a shot. And I hope he does get another shot, and I hope he pitches well. But it was absolutely the right call for the Seattle Mariners to let Chris Flexen go today. He did not serve a purpose. And he was given a lot of opportunities. He got a couple of starts. He got the chance to work in a lot of multi-inning, late-inning stuff. And look, that's not an easy thing because basically what Scott Service is telling Chris Flexen in those late-inning ones, those blowout ones, is throw strikes. Just throw flipping strikes. And he did, but a lot of them were hit awfully hard. Got a nice get back for the bullpen. You're basically healthy there now. Ben Murphy, obviously the exception, but it's a good bullpen. It's a good bullpen. Really solid win. I was talking to a buddy online about this, and he brought up what can you really gain from this series? And honestly, the only answer is wins, right? Like, you're not going to be able to judge too much based on this series because the Nationals are terrible. I think they're the second worst team in baseball, with all due respect to Kansas City, due respect to Kansas City and Colorado. I think Washington is the worst. Now, I think they have the best long-term prognosis because they have some really good young players and some really good prospects too. And they're going to get a really good prospect in the draft coming up with that second pick, be it Paul Skeens or Dylan Cruz or Wyatt Langford, whichever route they go, they're going to get a good one. But right now, bad, really bad roster. So, the eye test will tell me some stuff, with how they're playing and whatnot, but you can't gain a whole heck of a lot I don't blame anybody for not getting too excited about these wins. It was a fun game last night when I finally got to watch it this morning, really closer to this afternoon. But it was not exactly an indicator per se of great things coming. Not necessarily. I think they played well, but it certainly helps that the Nationals are just an awful baseball team. Wow. Hey, it's worth pointing out though, they did win that last series against the Padres. Padres are a huge disappointment this year. Did a little poll, by the way, asking who the most disappointing team in baseball is, and it was overwhelming the Mets. But I will admit that I forgot to include the Cardinals in there, and they're probably the answer. They're probably the answer. The Mariners are probably in the top 5, though. Mariners, Padres, Mets, Cardinals. Somebody I'm not thinking of. Guardians, maybe? I don't know. So, yeah, fun win, but it is worth pointing out just how bad this Washington Nationals club is. And hey, you get 2 more of them starting today, Tuesday, June 27th, 2023. Brian Wu against Jake Irvin, not Cole Irvin, Jake Irvin. Advantage Mariners, even with Wu having, you're not 100% sure what you're going to get from him. Well, you're not 100% sure what you're going to get from anybody. That's why life is not a simulation, I hope. What a weird way to end a video. Follow me on Twitter at Crawford_MILB. Sports Sometimes Podcast, RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Host that every single weekend. Yeah, tell your friends and please hit like, please hit subscribe. We're getting so close to 500. So close. Would love more organic growth instead of me just having to bash the retweet button, but I'll take it. Fun win. And maybe we can just calm down about Luis Castillo's first 3 innings. That would be my only real takeaway. And also, goodness gracious, I'm sorry. I'm glad the Mariners won, but that strike 3 called was